Most families believe they are more prepared than they really are. They have a few flashlights in a drawer, some canned food in the pantry, maybe a first aid kit under the sink. And somewhere in the garage, there might be a plastic-wrapped case of bottled water that has been sitting there for months. It feels like enough. Until the tap stops running. In a real crisis, water becomes the first invisible emergency. It does not always arrive with dramatic warning signs. There may be no explosion, no sirens, no obvious disaster outside the window. Sometimes it begins with a storm, sometimes with a broken main line, sometimes with a power outage that shuts down pumps, sometimes with a contamination alert that turns ordinary tap water into something unsafe to drink. And suddenly, the most basic thing in the house becomes the most important thing in the world. A person can go for weeks without food, but only a few days without water. And long before the body reaches that point, dehydration begins to change everything. Energy drops, focus disappears, headaches begin, children become weaker and more irritable. Older adults become more vulnerable. Simple decisions become harder. That is why the real question is not whether a family has some water. The real question is, how much water does a family actually need when a crisis begins? The common emergency guideline is 1 gallon per person per day. At first, that sounds simple. A family of 4 would need 4 gallons a day. For 3 days, 12 gallons. For 1 week, 28 gallons. But that number is only the beginning. 1 gallon per person per day usually covers basic drinking and limited sanitation. It assumes calm conditions. It assumes the weather is not extremely hot. It assumes nobody is sick. It assumes no one is doing heavy work, sweating, cleaning, taking care of wounds, mixing baby formula, washing dishes, or trying to keep pets hydrated. Real life is rarely that neat. In a summer blackout, a home can heat up quickly. Without air conditioning, the body needs more water. If people are stressed, moving supplies, checking on neighbors, or dealing with damage, they need more water. If someone has a fever, diarrhea, vomiting, diabetes, kidney problems, or other medical needs, the minimum amount may no longer be enough. Then there are the needs people forget. Water is not just for drinking. It is for cooking rice, pasta, oatmeal, soup, and dehydrated meals. It is for washing hands after using the bathroom. It is for cleaning a cut before it becomes infected. It is for rinsing baby bottles. It is for pets. It is for basic hygiene when the normal systems around you begin to fail. And in a crisis, hygiene is not comfort. It is safety. A family may think they have enough water because they bought a 24-pack of bottles, but a standard bottle is usually around half a liter. 24 bottles may sound like a lot, but together they are only a little over 3 gallons. For one adult, that might last a few days if used carefully. For a family of 4, it may not even cover 1 full day of emergency needs. That is where many families get caught off guard. They prepare emotionally, but not mathematically. They imagine water in bottles, not gallons. They imagine a short inconvenience, not a multi-day disruption. They imagine stores staying open, roads staying clear, and help arriving quickly. But crises do not always follow the schedule people expect. During major storms, bottled water can disappear from shelves before the first rainfall. During contamination alerts, families rush to stores at the same time. During power outages, card readers may stop working, gas stations may close, and transportation can become difficult. The moment everyone realizes they need water is usually the moment water becomes hardest to find. That is why emergency planning has to happen before the emergency. A better way to think about water is in layers. The first layer is immediate drinking water. This is the water your family can access right away, without electricity, without driving, and without depending on anyone else. For a family of 4, a realistic starting point is at least 3 days of water, which means 12 gallons minimum. But a safer target is 1 to 2 weeks, especially in areas prone to hurricanes, wildfires, floods, winter storms, earthquakes, or unreliable infrastructure. The second layer is utility water. This is water that may not be ideal for drinking but can be used for flushing toilets, washing, cleaning, or other basic needs. Some families fill bathtubs before a storm. Others store water in larger containers. Even this type of water can reduce pressure on drinking supplies. The third layer is a way to make water safer, because stored water can run out, bottles can be damaged, supplies can be contaminated, and in longer emergencies, families may need a method to filter or purify water from uncertain sources. This is where many people begin to understand that preparedness is not about panic. It is about reducing dependence. It is about not having to stand in a long line after shelves are empty. It is about not having to guess whether the water coming from the tap is safe. It is about protecting children, elderly parents, pets, and everyone in the home before the situation becomes desperate. Because once thirst enters a crisis, everything feels more urgent. Imagine a family on day 2 of a blackout. The refrigerator is warming, phones are low on battery, the house is hot, the children are asking for drinks, the adults are trying to stay calm, but they are counting bottles now. Every sip feels like a decision. Every spilled cup feels like a loss. That is not the moment to start planning. That is the moment when planning either protects you or exposes you. A family's water needs are also emotional. Having enough clean water creates calm. It gives parents room to think. It prevents small problems from becoming dangerous. It helps families stay in place instead of making risky trips outside. It turns a crisis from chaos into something manageable. And that is the real value of preparation. It is not just survival, it is control. For a single person, 1 gallon a day may be the minimum. For a couple, 2 gallons a day. For a family of 4, 4 gallons a day. Add pets, heat, hygiene, medical needs, or cooking, and that number grows quickly. A family of 4 planning for 7 days should not think in terms of 1 or 2 cases of bottled water. They should think in terms of dozens of gallons stored safely, rotated when needed, and supported by a backup plan. Because when a crisis arrives, water is not something you want to calculate under pressure. You want the answer already sitting in your home. That is why many preparedness-minded families look for smarter emergency water solutions instead of relying only on random bottles from the store. A system like Smart Water Box can help families think more seriously about water readiness before an emergency happens. For those who want to build a stronger water plan, Smart Water Box is available through the link in the description. The important thing is to act before the warning comes, before the shelves empty, before the tap slows down, before the news says the water is unsafe. Every family has a number, a real number. The amount of water they would need to stay safe, hydrated, clean, and functional through a crisis. Most families have never calculated it, and that is the danger, because in an emergency, water does not just support life. It supports every decision that keeps a family steady. It keeps people thinking clearly. It keeps children safer. It keeps the home from falling into panic. So the question is not whether a crisis will happen exactly the way people imagine. It probably will not. The question is whether your family has enough water when the normal world stops working for a while. And if the answer is uncertain, then the time to fix it is now.